Question: does anyone know what classic novel has the opening line, "In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit"? Not Lord of the Rings, no, it's The Hobbit. Yes, in the opening scene of The Hobbit, and I'll give my best J.R.R. Tolkien British voice, in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell. No, yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. Yes, in the opening scene of The Hobbit, we meet Bilbo Baggins, a wealthy and well-respected hobbit who lives in a large, comfortable underground house in the Shire. Bilbo lives the good life in his hobbit hole. He gets to sleep in, hang out with friends, eat delicious food whenever he wants, take warm baths at night. He lives the good life. One day, though, after a large breakfast while smoking a pipe on the bench and enjoying the beautiful summer morning, an old man with a tall pointed blue hat and a wizard's staff comes by. It's Gandalf. After some discussion about whether it was a good morning or not, Gandalf got down to business. "I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure that I am arranging, and it's very difficult to find anyone." "I should think so in these parts," said Bilbo. "We are plain quiet folk and have no use for adventures. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things make you late for dinner. I can't think what anybody sees in them." Rather than give up on Bilbo, though, Gandalf knows a secret. He knows a secret. He knows that deep down in Bilbo, there are two sides at war in his heart. There are two family lines fighting for his real identity. On the one side, there is the Baggins family line from his father, Bilbo Baggins. This side likes comfort. On the other side, there's the Took family line from his mother, Belladonna Took. This side craves adventure. So we have the Baggins side that likes comfort and the Took side that craves for adventure. And although the Baggins side is dominating Bilbo's life at the current moment, Gandalf knows what's best for Bilbo. He knows that the Took side needs to come alive for Bilbo to grow up and become a real man. And so the next day, Gandalf, along with 12 dwarves, crash into Bilbo's comfortable hobbit hole and make him an offer to be their burglar on an adventure to help the dwarves regain their ancestral land and lost treasure from the dragon Smaug under the lonely mountain. And Bilbo is at first terrified at this idea. He does not want to leave his comfortable hobbit hole. Remember, the Baggins side is dominating his life at this moment. But Gandalf and the dwarves start to sing songs about these adventures of the past from ancient dwarves, kings, and elvish lords, and about their desire to go on a similar adventure with Bilbo. "Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away a break of day to seek the pale enchanted gold." And the Took side in Bilbo's heart starts to come alive. He starts to dream about an adventure. And so the next morning, for the first time ever in his life, Bilbo leaves his comfortable hobbit hole in the Shire and goes on a great adventure with Gandalf and the dwarves to seek the pale enchanted gold. And though there are many times throughout the rest of the novel where Bilbo, the Baggins side, comes alive again, starts to dream about just returning to the comfortable hobbit hole in the Shire, the Took side never gave up. It fought the battle, and it won the war for his real identity. And so by the end of the novel, we see Bilbo, he not only discovered hidden talents for burglaring, riddling, fighting, but most importantly, Bilbo discovered a magical ring. No, just kidding. Most importantly, Bilbo grew up and became a real man. So was it difficult for Bilbo? Yes. But was it worth it? Oh, yeah. So that's Bilbo's story. And what a great story Tolkien wrote about his life. But what about us? What about our story? Cool fact of the day. J.R.R. Tolkien did not write The Hobbit to entertain us about Bilbo's story, but to convict us about our story. Yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien was a daily mass goer, a devout Catholic, a holy man, and he wrote The Hobbit not just to entertain us about Bilbo's story, but to convict us about our story. I call this the ha-ha boom effect. Ha-ha boom. You've never heard of this before. Ha-ha boom. Okay, first time I read The Hobbit was in seminary, and I'm reading this opening scene that I just laid out for you, and I'm laughing at Bilbo. Ha-ha, Bilbo, come on. Get out of your comfortable hobbit hole and go on the adventure. And then, boom, I felt God saying to me, Richard, you are Bilbo. Get out of your comfortable hobbit hole. It's like, the ha-ha boom effect. That's exactly what Tolkien was going for. You first laugh at Bilbo, ha-ha, and then you realize you are Bilbo. Boom. So Bilbo's not just some hobbit in a novel. He's us. He's you. He's me. And Gandalf is not just some wizard. He's Jesus. And the two sides at war in Bilbo's heart, the two family lines fighting for his identity, that's a war that happens in our lives every single day. We too have the Baggins side, the human side that craves for comfort. And we have the Took side, the divine side that craves for adventure. Today's Trinity Sunday, and it's just a great reminder to realize that when we were baptized in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, we got a new family line. A divine side was entered into our very being that craves for adventure, the one adventure to become saints. That's why we have this ache and hunger in our hearts that is never satisfied, always wants more, more, more in life. We have a divine side in us that craves for adventure. And every single day, the story of the Hobbit is being lived out in our lives. Every single day, there's this war in our hearts between the human side that likes comfort and the divine side that craves for adventure. Do you believe me? We'll test it out. Okay. Wednesday night, 7 p.m. here at Corpus Christi, we have a missionary coming. This woman, Meg Hunter-Kilmer, a young female missionary who's going to give this talk for an hour on becoming saints in the Eucharist and then half an hour of adoration. Who wants to go? Do you want to come? Maybe you started to feel something inside. It was like this war in your heart. It's like, no, I don't want to go. I have something planned Wednesday night. Comfort. Or maybe some of you just experienced it this morning. The alarm goes off. Do you go for comfort, snooze? Or do you go for adventure to realize God has given us the absolute gift of this day? Time is a precious gift that God has given us. And the only reason we exist is to go on an adventure to become saints. It's the only reason we're here. Not to press snooze and to reject the gift of a day that God has given us and just default to comfort, but to say yes to an adventure. Wow, God has chosen all of this to exist, to go on the adventure to become saints. So it happens every single morning. It happens every day you go off to work or to school or just live in this culture where someone says something against the Catholic faith. Do you go for comfort? Do you just keep your mouth shut and just nod your head and agree? Or do you go for adventure? Do you stand up for your Catholic faith? If you want a real adventure, try actually being Catholic today. It is a fabulous adventure. I just love going out wearing my collar. It's a real adventure. I have a lot of stories. Another adventure, try actually a new prayer routine. I guarantee if you try a new prayer routine, try go to Adoration Chapel every day for a week, all of a sudden you'll realize some war is happening in your heart. Every time it's like, oh, the little prompting. Oh, maybe I should go pray. Go to the Adoration Chapel. And then it's like this battle between comfort. It's like, no, I'm maybe later. Or adventure, like, no, I'm going to go. Try a new prayer routine. I guarantee you'll experience the war in your heart. It also happens every time you're alone. Every time you're alone. Comfort, you could binge on video games or something even worse, like anime. Or adventure. You could actually deny yourself, read a book about a saint that leaves you feeling hungry for more in life rather than just burnt out on anime. Some young men here, one day you might have thought about becoming a priest, and all of a sudden the battle happens in the heart. Comfort? No, not that. Come up with some lame excuse. Oh yeah, I like girls too much to become a priest. Yeah, that's a good excuse, that'll work. Or adventure. Try to go to the seminary. See maybe whether God has invited you on an amazing adventure to become a priest, which I love being a priest. So the battle is real. I even feel it as a priest. Trust me, when Father Hamilton and I launched this 10-year vision, it was like Jesus was saying to us, I'm looking for an adventure to share in, and it's very difficult to find anyone. And Father Hamilton and I want to say yes. Like, we want to be that parish that says yes to an adventure, to do something bold. And there are many days when we realize the sacrifice that's involved in actually changing the culture of a parish and to actually live out this 10-year parish vision here. There are many days where we face the reality of that, and it's easy to be like Bilbo. And it's just like, we're plain quiet folk and have no use for adventures. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things. Makes you late for dinner. And we just want to default to comfort instead of adventure. The battle is real. But when I'm honest with myself, I realize that whenever I choose comfort over adventure, I always end the day empty. I always end the day lacking something in my life. Whenever you choose comfort over adventure, your life gets more and more empty. It lacks meaning. It lacks purpose. It lacks a fire inside for more in life. That's what happens when you choose comfort over adventure in the spiritual life. To conclude, we know in the life of Bilbo, the game changer for Bilbo was when Gandalf and the dwarves crashed into his comfortable hobbit hole and started sharing stories about adventures. We too need that experience constantly. We too need people to share stories of real adventure, to become saints, to awaken that divine side in us for adventure so that we can say no to the life of comfort. Rather than tell the story about some canonized saint of the past, I'm going to share a story about a future saint from this parish. Last summer, Lois and I came up with the idea of inviting 12 senior youth and young adults from this parish to join a leadership team here at Corpus Christi for youth ministry. Every time I asked one of them, do you want to join a leadership team for youth ministry? If I could zoom into their hearts, the war was going on. The war between comfort and adventure. Before they fully committed, though, we brought them on a retreat to Whistler. And on the last day of the retreat, I thought, okay, Father Richard, here's your opportunity. You're going to fire them up to say yes to this adventure, to say yes to a leadership team, to say yes to this path to become saints, to say no to comfort, yes to adventure. So I came up with this idea and I said, okay, if anyone here believes that they can actually become a saint, I want you to stand up. So I say this to the 12. So I sit down, I close my eyes, and I say, everyone's sitting, and I say, if anyone here believes that they can actually become a saint, I want you to stand up. So I'm sitting there, close my eyes, expecting no one to stand up, and then here Father Richard's going to come to the rescue and give a great homily to fire them up. So I'm eyes closed, open my eyes, all 12 of them, all 12 stood up. In that moment, they convinced me, Father Richard, that you can actually say no to comfort and yes to adventure. In that moment, they actually convinced me, Father Richard, that you can actually get out of your hobbit hole and go on a real adventure. In that moment, I saw that holiness is actually possible in this culture, and it fired me up. And so, I ask you, parishioners of Corpus Christi, right here, right now, if anyone here believes that they can become a saint, if anyone here wants to get out of their comfortable hobbit hole and you're sick and tired of a life of comfort, and you actually believe that you can go on a real adventure and become a saint, I ask you right here, right now, to stand up. Standing with faith that we can become saints, let us pray.